Redditors, what is your crap happens academic story? Got a T position. Good deal to have tuition paid and a stipend. It was weird I got that much money randomly just to stay at the school and other professors telling me to leave. I soon got started told by the other grad students that my advisor was the only one with openings for a reason. He literally ruined that field for me. So now at 28 I'm starting college again, went from math and CS to veterinary science. That's how bad he fricked me up. Crap happens. Hopefully for the better, but I've been a good programmer and nerd since I was about 12. He just killed it for me. Last semester in college I took a Spanish class. It was a flipped class, meaning that all of our grades came from online assignments we did on our own time, with the exception of quizzes which we did in class, and exams, which were at the language center on campus. Anyways, I paid attention in class and knew all the information pretty well, although I did not really ever do the online assignments that often. So although I got A's and B's on the test, my grade was not the best. I was still passing though. Well, if you took a test you had to schedule a time in the testing center to go take it, and one week I rescheduled it about 4 times. I forgot about it each time. I ended up failing the class by about 2 points because I forgot to go take 1 out of 4 exams. I was peed myself but decided, well, it is what it is. I am technically a credit ahead in Spanish anyways, so I will just take the class again another semester. 3rd year of university, spend a solid week on an essay, USB gives and I lost everything. Surprised I didn't drop out. The whole neighborhood could hear my pepe. In 2nd grade we had spelling homework every night. Spelling homework was often things like write each of the vocabulary words backwards and forwards, write each vocabulary word 3 times in the shape of a triangle, write each vocabulary word in a different color. I think the intention was for the assignments to be fun, but we would have like 20 words each week, and even in 2nd grade I felt like this was mindless busy work. Assignments were all written in a notebook which we handed in halfway through the year and at the end of the year for grading. I missed 2 of them the first half of the year, so the teacher took me out into the hall and chewed me out for not doing my work. The second half of the year, I didn't do a single one. I got my notebook back and it was just a bunch of blank pages with check marks on them. Turns out my teacher had a pretty serious brain tumor and was either losing her crap or realized she had more important things to worry about than whether or not a 2nd grader was writing Bumblebee upside down. I got an A. I was a T for my master's advisor, and he spent the majority of the term in China with his ailing mother, so I was pretty much responsible for entirely teaching this one senior level civil engineering course that is known for being a low intensity elective that people take to fill their schedule for their last semester. However, it was within the exact subject area of my research, which I was basically consumed with at that point because I'd just gotten into a really good PhD program, and also published something I was pretty proud of on the subject, so I was really determined to make it good, interesting, engaging, etc. Unfortunately, none of my students shared my enthusiasm for this, and would regularly show up to class late, drunk, or not at all. Out of 75 students, maybe 20 were putting in any effort, so I did what anyone would do and gave the rest the grades they deserved. Toward the end of the semester, I get called into my department head's office. He says, "You know, your class is not meant to be a weed out. It's senior level, and people take it to gain a greater breadth of knowledge, not to get grilled. What is this?" And he showed me the midterm of the drunkest butthole on the entire roster. I told him, "That's what happens when you come to class drunk, if at all, and put in no effort." Also, that guy told me his grandmother died 3 times this semester, which is why he didn't make lab those weeks. The 32 he got on that test is the best grade he's received from me this semester. Turns out the drunk butthole's father was the biggest donor to our program, and a regular golfing buddy of my department head, so he ended up with a B in my class, which was a real Christmas miracle considering his average was about a 27 by the end of the term. That time I had to do 2 4-man projects on my own because I was the 45th student and we had to make groups of 4. Not 3, not 5, 4, and 1. Apparently, didn't fail, but it was quite miserable. All that time where I was invited for a project group and the day on the assignment I was told I was replaced. Ended up having to another class for teammates, of which one disappeared halfway, one gave up, and the other guy was 10 times better than me, so I had no clue what he was talking about at the time. Besides that, he was kind, but we were just not compatible. All that time where the group project where 2 people couldn't come because of colliding classes, because of do-overs, for more than half the quarter, and the third didn't want to work without the other 2. Tried my best but ended up not attending the presentation, so the other 3 got a grade and I didn't. All the times where you had to work as a group, so naturally everyone else split up the assignments and do everything solo. All that time where I finally had a chance to do and make what I love for once, only for a random bot guy to come in, demand that exact thing so I could compensate, leaving me with a task I'm crap at and don't enjoy. Good riddance, was what people said to me when I dropped out of school. I had a group project for an online English class. I ended up doing 75% of the work and 2 of the 5 members didn't respond to me trying to contact them until the day before and day after it was due. First day of classes in second year high school, I apparently fell asleep in math class. Next thing I knew, the teacher called me in front, asked me why I was sleeping and made me do jumping jacks right in front of the class. End of the school year, I got kicked out of the school for failing said class. Failed it 2 consecutive school years because I hate math, lol. My mom and the teacher had to talk and actually knew each other. Said teacher was shocked to say the least, as he knew my mom is a certified public accountant and for me to fail math was baffling for him. Both of my parents are CPAs and I still barely passed every math class I had to take. Their logic and math genes escaped me. Back in undergrad there was a practical class where we had to solve the exercises using a certain piece of software to get the answers. I figured it out right away and spent the rest of the lesson helping my friends learn how to do it. We all turned in identical answer sheets and they got higher marks than me. Still salty about that to this day, even though it had no bearing on anything and I've since gone through masters, PhD, and have a real job. That one moment just work. Not really academic, but anyways, my brother was a really smart kid. He graduated high school at 15. In first grade of high school we had to make a paper for biology classes about the tree in our garden. You would have to document the tree throughout the whole year. My brother is 2 years older than me, but he was 5 years in front of me at school, so he handed in his paper at the end of the year and got an A+. 5 years later it was my turn. Same school, same project and same teacher. As little I cared about school when I was 12, I just copied my brother's work one. Just changed the name and handed it in. Back then there weren't these plagiarism skanks, so it was pretty same. Apparently the exact same teacher was a lot less impressed with my paper than with my brother's. I got an C where he got an A+ for exactly the same paper. 1 year in high school and I immediately understood that you don't get judged on your work, but only if people like you or not. He was that smart young kid and I was just another annoying kid that didn't pay attention. 30 years ago, spent over 150 hours building a scale model of a home with balsam wood and foam core for my final presentation to get my degree. The presentation space was a mile or so from campus, so I borrowed my friend's sweet 1986 Ford Mustang, gingerly put my project on the front seat and drove about 15 miles per hour to the parking lot to wait for my appointment with my professor. Parked, got out of the car, walked around to the other side, opened the door and retrieved my project, held it up like a server with a tray to close the door, and a gust of wind came out of nowhere and picked it up out of my hands and smashed it on the concrete. Bits of balsam wood and glue were everywhere. I stood there and stared for what seemed like hours. The kid whose appointment was before mine was walking out and saw it lying on the ground and me just standing there. Ran back inside to get the prof because he was sure I was going to pass out. The prof comes out the door, grabs what is left of my model home, gently holds my arm and ushers me to the stairs outside. We sit there and he has me walk through step by step verbally how I built it. At the end, he holds up the model home, which is now just a basement of foam core, and says, "And this is why people are told to go down to the basement in a tornado hurricane." I laughed and got an A. I have a couple of these. Best one happened to a friend. He had a project on a USB drive. We parked at the same time we're walking together to class. Get to the other side of a busy street. My friend says oh crap and turns back to the busy road. My USB fell out of my pocket. We both watched it get run over by a delivery truck. He got an F. Mine was paper on an external hard drive. Went to print it the morning it was due. Hard drive crashed and wouldn't boot. Got an F. The lesson here: make backups in different places. Third one happened to another friend. He spent weeks making a cardboard stool that folded from on sheet of cardboard. Got in front of class to present with his unfolded piece of cardboard and couldn't get the folds right. I saw it folded and working right before class. He also got an F. Cost him to repeat that class the next semester. He still became an architect. Lesson here: don't present on a lack of sleep. My guidance counselor in high school told me that the one college I had applied to wasn't a real school and that there was no way I'd ever go there because she couldn't get the college board page to load. I got in and went there, and now it's one of the top game design schools in the country. I wanted to go to school for game design. I got into the graphic design major instead of game design, but it worked out better for me that way. And this lazy guidance counselor told me that special effects in movies were basically the same thing as video games, so the only schools she told me about were for-profit special effects schools in parts of the US and Canada that I had zero interest. Frick you and Porter. High school guidance counselors suck. Mine had no idea of any of the schools I applied to because they were out of state private schools. She also thought I should only apply to 3 schools. I ended up being one of 10 people maximum out of a class of 600 to go out of state for school when everyone else was going to the local community college. I'm deaf in my right ear and have poor hearing in the left. Been that way since birth. I suppose my 2nd grade teacher had been fed up with me not following rules regarding an assignment and asking stupid questions. She was visibly agitated and said something along the lines of, "Are you deaf?" to which I responded with, "Actually, yeah, I am." I guess she mistook this for me being a smartass and sent me to sit in the hallway while she called my dad, but I honestly was just trying to tell her that I was genuinely about 60% deaf. I didn't realize until years later that she was calling me stupid or why my dad thought I was so funny for that. I failed creative writing my sophomore year. I was supposed to write a biography on an author and I took what I thought was my senior high school paper on Mark Twain. Nope. It was copied and pasted from some website. I am thinking it was a source that I had to hand it with it or something. In reflection, I get a letter from the professor telling me he is giving me an F. I understand. It's a lit class. I should have checked it against a Google search, but it was busy work to me and so I didn't think it deserved the time. I still graduated with a degree in English. Crap happens. It's what you do afterwards that really counts. Graduated my creative writing class with an A next time and never used any of my old papers again as I couldn't trust it. 1.5 years through a law degree I decided I wanted to join the police. Spent a great deal of time making my application perfect. Sent it off and then 2 days later I got cautioned by the police for drinking in the street. By this point I hadn't studied for exams and was a full semester behind. Crap happens. 3 years on I have my degree. I was always a straight A student growing up and a pretty good athlete too. Played all sports I could, but excelled in basketball. But in high school, some of the teachers had biases about students who played sports that they couldn't possibly also be good academic students. Every year I was accused of plagiarizing an essay and had to take it all the way to the vice principal to plead my case. Never got an apology. Frick you Mr. Edelstein, Ms. Bloom, Mr. Stewart, and Ms. Gould, you suckers. I will never understand how it got there, but my entire 3 years at my university there was a foot-long black dildo suction stuck to the outside of the 3rd floor library window. Everyone knew about it but for some reason it was never removed. When I was 9 we moved to Kenya for reasons I wasn't told. They have a different school system and curriculum than Norway, the place I was born and live, and I went to school in Kenya for 6 years. When I was about to start high school we moved back literally 2 weeks before school started. Basically no school here except schooling degrees from Kenya and I had to do 1 year of language and catch up even though I didn't need it cause I had all A's and I was fluent in Norwegian. Now I had to be 1 year behind for no goddamn reason if we didn't move, like it's not cause of their jobs cause my dad stayed in Norway and for work and my mom doesn't work. And they say I will know the reason we moved when I grow older. I am literally almost 18, just freaking tell me. This might be off topic a bit, but I just needed to vent a bit. We're definitely gonna need an update to this when you find out I followed you, so please post whenever they tell you. I had doubts about even going to college, but I still decided to attend. Turns out I actually loved going to school and I was doing well. I managed to maintain a GPA of 3.9 and only missed a day or two. I was getting multiple job offers through my school because of how well I was doing. A month before graduating, my school's shuts down with no warning, and suddenly I had wasted all my time, money, and I lost the job offers. Crap happens, I guess. I once got a 0 in a class in high school. Like, my final mark was a 0. I was taking an extra class, but because I could not have more than one spare, no class. But I already had extra credits to graduate and it was not an important course, so I just went to class for a few weeks. The teacher gave out this huge pain in the butt project and I was like, nah, not doing this, so I just did not show up to class. Funny part, once say that teacher in the hall and she asked me why I had not shown up to class for like a month. I just gave her the shocked look and said I had dropped the class a while ago, which was a lie. When I got my final report card, there was a big 0 on it and it's just really full to look at. Okay, so this happened my sophomore year of high school in my honors biology class. We have a group assignment called the plant project and it was massive. Like, I'm talking 2 to 3 months to complete. Teacher is talking about it all the time. It's our first big grade and worth more than any other test. I'm in a group with 3 other people, and we are all kind of misfits, and don't have other friends in the class, so we are stuck working with each other. Now the plant project consists of collecting multiple types of plants, like a 5 ground cover, 5 flowering, 5 trees, etc, etc, and there's probably at least 30 samples required. So I spend a ton of time collecting and identifying and sorting, and it gets to be the weekend before it's due. Now mind you, I've probably done around 60% of the work for this group. So I tell them all I'm going camping with my family and they can do the final work to assemble the project. They all happily agree. Well, I'm in the woods with my family and I start getting these texts and calls from my group members. I hike to get reception and one of the members accused me of having done no real work and skipping out on the project. I denied adamantly. We argue for a bit. Then I say if I have done nothing, give me back all the materials I've collected for the group. You all obviously feel I haven't contributed, so we can part ways and I'll do the project on my own. He agrees. So I tell me mom, and being the angel she is, she agrees to help me. So we are running through the woods, finding all these different plants, trying to recall my rubric for the project, and just generally freaking out. When we get back to my hometown and I collect my plants from my former group, they didn't even give me back a fraction of what I had collected. We start assembling the project. My mom and I work non-stop for 2 days. We go on local hikes and buy all these plant guides and truly bust our asses. And we assembled this gorgeous behemoth of a project. We had extra plants. We did the extra credits section. We did it all in about 3 days. I go to hand it in to the teacher. I explain what happened and apologized for the plants not being properly dried. Of course the teacher is shocked I managed to scrap together the project in 3 days, although he wasn't thrilled by my mom helping, and a few weeks later I get the grade of 103%. My former group got a 56% or something. Since that incident, every former group member has approached me and formally apologized for their behavior. Literally every member. And that was the day I learned group projects suck butt. My first semester of senior year at university, I learned what karma was. I was nearing the end of my finance degree and taking this one high-level course on financial markets. In the class, we did not have a book, no online resources, nothing outside of my professor's notes that she hand wrote on the board each day. This woman was rather young, late 30s, but a stone for a heart. So in the class we were given partners that we would be working with the whole semester on projects and assignments. I got matched up with a kid I knew kinda well, and was well aware that he was a slacker. So we are 3/4 done with the semester and have a large exam coming up. At this point I had a 95% in the class and was on top of the material, and solely doing all of the group projects because my partner never even bothered to help or did not understand. Before the exam we are given a study guide to complete to help us study, and we can turn it in for a 5% boost on our exam score. My partner does not do his, and asks me to send him it. So I do since it's just a study guide after all. No harm. Everyone was doing it. After the exam my professor calls me in to tell me that I am being kicked out of her class for cheating. Turns out my partner took my study guide and copied it word for word. I explain my case and tell her what happened. Showed her the proof I was the original author. Did not matter, because I got kicked out. Furthermore, my university had a one-strike policy and I got kicked out of the business school entirely, 2 classes away from my degree. Here is the kicker. That is the same day I found out the newly built wing in our business school was named after his grandfather. As a result, my partner never got into any trouble for this. So I call a lawyer and we file a grievance against the school and threaten to sue. Showed proof I did not steal from him, and that my partner was getting special treatment. They back down and suspend me for 1 year. I did not want to wait 2 years to have a degree that was 6 months away from earning. So I end up leaving and going to another university to finish. Pretty bummed but made the best of it. The karma always wins though. Turns out my partner eventually got expelled from school for cheating on that final. Also, my professor was not the one who reported him to the dean, but it was another student, because our professor knowingly let it happen. Dean found out and she got fired as well. Gotta love it. TL. DR. Got screwed over by classmate. All 3 of us went down in the end. I took an inline skating class in college as a required fitness elective. The class was pretty fun and I actually learned some stuff about skating. The Tay was a doctoral candidate with a holier-than-thou attitude. The requirements for the course were attendance and writing a journal entry each week about what we learned, and then at the end we had to submit an essay on the benefits of inline skating. She accused me of plagiarism and told me it was too good to be written by you. I had written the 2-page paper. What's the point of plagiarizing an inline skating paper for an elective? I told her to prove it. She couldn't, since it wasn't, but she gave me a B in the class anyway. That brought my cumulative GPA to a 3.69, so I did not graduate summa cum laude like I had planned. B. In college, I had to take an online course over 1 summer to complete my degree on time. The course was fairly easy, in my major area, and honestly pretty interesting. I breezed through it and maintained an A the whole time. In place of a final exam, we were assigned a final research paper. I was thrilled because I am awful at exams but great at writing. The day before the paper was due, I had it mostly completed. My family was pretty poor, so the only laptop I had to work on had a dead battery, that is, I needed to have it plugged in to use it. I live inland in the northeast US. Although I'm not in a hurricane-prone area, we were predicted to get slammed by a big storm that traveled up the coast. It was national news for a while. I planned to submit a paper a day early in case we lost power. As I was finishing up the paper the morning before the storm was supposed to hit, we lost power. Okay, no big deal, I thought. I lived in a rural area, but there was a library 10 minutes away and a Starbucks 20 minutes away. I left my driveway to head toward the library. It had been raining all morning, but we weren't supposed to be at risk for flooding until the following day. About a mile from my house, flowing water had toppled a huge tree across the road. Okay, guess I'm going to Starbucks. I backtracked toward my house, past the driveway, and continued in the other direction toward civilization. A mile in the other direction, a small bridge was washed out. Frick. I went home and emailed my professor explaining the situation. I was a great student, so I hoped that he would be lenient and let me have an extension. I offered to provide pictures of my road if needed for proof. He responded to my email. Deep Sea Explorer, you have a 6-hour extension. I'm leaving for vacation tomorrow night. If I don't get your paper by 6 PM, consider it a 0. I was freaking the frick out. It was a 12-page paper. I had no laptop, no power, and no way to access power. I had a previous version draft in my email, but it was from the week before and only half done. With 30% battery in the Word app, I typed 5 additional pages of paper with references on my phone. I emailed it, but the email was not sending. We had such terrible service and no power, and there was nothing I could do. He counted the paper as a 0 and I got a C in the class. When I emailed him after the storm, which ended up destroying our neighbor's home, washing out the road into our property, flooding our basement with 4 feet of water, and taking down tons of trees. I never got a response. Looking back, I should have appealed the grade and provided proof. I had never had anything like this happen. I was a first-gen university kid. My parents ended up getting degrees, but not at traditional universities. I'm still bitter. I now work at the school I went to, and anytime I see that professor's name I get a little ticked off. Took a college class my junior year of high school and had a book for third quarter and a different book for fourth. Read them in opposite order and didn't realize why the questions were completely different from what I studied until I reached fourth quarter with a 20-something%. Everything on the next exam was oddly familiar despite giving up on studying. I was in the 7th grade. It was the mid-90s. My social studies teacher was a short, plump, white lady with a voice that made you want to claw your eardrums out of your head. She had to have had a double-digit IQ, but she spoke Spanish and was basically hired to work with the kids who spoke English as a second language, ESL. I guess they were short a social studies teacher and threw her the bone. It was her first time teaching anything but ESL. She was a dope, like I said before, completely unaware that she was among wolves. One day she was telling us about the Netherlands and she said, "You guys never read the story about the little boy who put his finger in the dike naturally." All of us wolves laughed hysterically. The conversation continued. I raised my hand and stated that, like amateurism, New Orleans was another city that rested at or below sea level. She looked at me and said, "Well, that doesn't make much sense, does it? If a city were below sea level it would be underwater." I wasn't backing down because I knew for a fact that these two cities had large portions that lay below sea level but were in fact dry land. She sent me to the office for the rest of the class period. I wasn't given a detention or anything. Fast forward to 2005. Katrina hits NOLA and it's all over the news how the lower ninth was underwater. The levees had been the only thing holding back the ocean, etc. My mom called me and said, "I bet you wish you could call Mrs. C and ask if she still thinks you were wrong." I hadn't been the only person who experienced her crappy teaching. The year after 7th grade she was back to just teach ESL. During last year of high school, the most important one, I had the worst grades I had ever had. I'd always been a pretty good student, was never the best in the class, but my grades were mostly sitting about B+A. That year though I had to deal with the divorce of my parents and starting hanging around some dubious company. First 2 trimesters I failed 5 out of 10 subjects. I worked my butt off during the last trimester to try and get to take the university access exam in June. The grades finally came and I ended up failing 3 subjects, for which I had to go to summer school in order to graduate from high school in September and take the university test then. What was funny is that a couple of teachers wanted to speak to me and told me, "You know, if we actually look at your performance on the tests and the whole year average, you should have passed without problems, because you actually passed every test this last trimester. But given your performance at the beginning of the year, we decided to let you fail and go through summer school so you finally learn the meaning of the words effort and perseverance." I kind of get their motives, but why did I take those tests and worked hard during the last trimester for nothing if it was decided already they were gonna make me fail right from the start? Those seem to be teachers who try and teach values, and I respect that, but failing a senior student after his parents divorced, sorry, BTW, doesn't seem very nice. Had to rewrite a research paper in a grad school class because half the class plagiarized their papers and the professor got P and took it out on everyone. One guy copy-pasted paragraphs from Wikipedia too. I almost had a second degree in undergrad, but the degree people messed up and didn't count my microbiology class as a legit class credit for the degree because they changed the class number on the catalog. I have been accused of cheating twice. Once by a maths lecturer at school who didn't believe I came top of the class in the exam and refused to move me up a stream as he should have. And once at uni by a fellow student who accused me of copying his exam paper, which considering it was essay based is one of the most ridiculous things I have ever heard. They were just 2 more microcuts that have shaped my what turned out to be very accurate view of humanity. Got a law degree and hated every minute of it just to enter the job market, unable to get a job anywhere. Don't get a law degree if it's not from a top school or you have a guaranteed position waiting for you when you are done. This isn't exactly academic, but I found mold on my hamburger bun in high school and I showed the principal and he just told me to tear off the mold and eat the good part. I found out that is in fact not recommended by science and I'm still salty. Wrote a 5,000 word paper with 24 pages of just references. Using EndNote, I diligently save on Word. I save very often. What I didn't do is save it on an external drive in addition to my hard disk. I try to boot up my computer and the hard drive is corrupted and can't be fixed. I guess it's not that bad because I did manage to rewrite it, but I now use Google Docs. What now? EndNote. What now? I remember in the 5th grade, there was this beloved teacher, young, thin, blonde, super peppy. She had asked our class to list off different dog breeds. Of course, all of the most popular were shouted first: Lab, German Shepherd, Chihuahua, Golden Retriever. I raise my hand. Me, American Eskimo. Teacher, scoffs. American Eskimos aren't dogs, they're people. The entire class, including the teacher, burst into laughter. I owned an American Eskimo dog, and my mom bought me a dog breed book I was obsessed with. Completely lost my trust for teachers after this and developed my sense of critical thinking. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.